Hi guys, it's Emily from Novelle Novels and welcome to today's video. This is the Evolution of a Reader tag that was created by the lovely Jack from Spread Book Joy, who is one of my Booktube besties and is someone who is absolutely amazing. So if you're not subscribed to her, why not? She's fantastic, absolutely brilliant. This is a real chatty tag. I have not planned it whatsoever, so it's going to be a really rambly Emily style video because I am knackered. Yeah, I'll talk about that in another video, but yeah. So let's get on. She's got 4 sort of questions sort of thing to start us talking about our evolution of reading. And to me, these sort of chatty videos are quite nice because I don't have to plan and film it. I haven't planned at all really, but it's me. I've watched so many people, so many of my friends have actually done this tag. So at the end it does say to tag people, but I'm not sure if the people, I don't think the people I'm tagging have done it. But it's a really good video to sort of talk about how we've changed as readers. So the first one is what you read. How has your taste in books evolved? Well, you all kind of know that a bit really with me because I've been on Booktube 3.5 years. I've been back reading probably about 4 years. But my reading has changed a lot over the years. I think this does kind of, for me, this prompt does sort of go into also prompt number 4. But I will sort of talk to you about my history of reading for those of you that are newish to my channel because I've recently hit my 1K. So I really want to talk about how my reading's changed. Now, we grew up as, I will link actually Charlie Brooke Reads his video down below because that does connect quite a lot to mine. Because obviously we're sisters. For those of you that don't know, she's my sister and my best friend in the whole wide world. So I will be linking her video for this down below because it really does connect. As a family, we grew up reading. Now, Charlie found it a bit harder to read, as you sort of will see from hers. But I loved reading from day dot. I do not remember a period in my life where, like, when growing up, books were not a part of it. We used to have our nan, my mum's mum, read to us. She read poetry to us. She read classics to us. She read nursery rhymes. She read to us from day dot. That was one of my earliest memories. Not going to get choked up, but thinking of her is something that was really happy. She really talked to us about books a lot, and that was really important to me growing up. My mum sort of did read to us when she could. It was an important part of our growing up. It was our time together, and she would do anything to encourage us to read. My dad didn't read at all, but he only read sort of factual books, and I think that's where Charlie sort of read the factual. But for me, I grew up reading. I have the problem, which is my brain works faster than I can verbalise. So I read fast and I do everything quite fast in my head but then I struggle to kind of like verbalise it and catch up with it. And for me, reading was something that I found easier than writing, because writing, if you see my handwriting now, it's awful. I've always found that harder. So for me, reading was something that I enjoyed and I could do a lot easier. I think Mia and Thomas, both my kids, they find reading. Thomas certainly finds reading a lot easier than writing. So reading was my escape. It was something that I could do. It was something that I enjoyed doing, and it's something that I've got happy memories of. I started off with all the primary school books, like the the Red House books and all those ones. I started off with sort of the really easy learning ones, Topsy and Tim books, I remember them. And books like that, they were the ones I started off reading. As a teenager, I read Sweet Valley High books. That's something from Alex Black Roots. She remembers those books. The Sweet Valley High books were books I loved. They were like the teenagey kind of books like that. But actually, I'm sorry, I just remember before that, I used to read books like Heidi, and I used to love like the Mallory Towers books and the Enid Blyton books with the boarding school ones. So like the St. Clair's, Mallory Towers, that kind of books. They were a real form of escape for me growing up. Because I got bullied a lot as a child, bullied a lot at school, and unfortunately that did continue into my adult life with various jobs that I've been in and things like that. Not currently the job I'm doing, but yeah. And I got bullied as a child because I've always worn glasses. I used to have goofy teeth, that kind of thing. And for me, school was not a happy place. It really wasn't. It was a place that, yes, I learnt, but I was bullied ridiculously. So when I read books about boarding schools, it was like, and the friendships in the boarding schools and the families in that was my way of escaping, and I got to learn in different places. Me and Charlie used to, I had a very, very vivid imagination. Books really encouraged that vivid imagination that I had. And me and Charlie used to create like little stories in our heads, and we had families in the loft. And the reading really helped that, because it was something that I could have my imagination where I could go off into a happy place. And that was something that reading really helped me growing up. And certainly when I was younger, it was like I could escape into different worlds. And that's still something I think I do as an adult really now, because of the chronic pain. But yeah, so those are the sort of books I started off with. Then I went on to the Sweet Valley High books again, the American, that sort of like books. They were ones I used to find in the library. We used to go to the Bracknell Library a lot growing up, and that's still there. I need to get back to it. I think that's something I'm going to go back to in the new year, now that I've got my unread TBR down a bit, so I can start going back to the library, which would be really nice, because it was a happy place growing up. And used to borrow books. We used to borrow, because I don't think we owned a huge amount. I think the library was a free way of getting us having books, because we didn't have huge amounts of money and everything growing up. So we used to go to the library to borrow free books, and that was something I really enjoyed. And then as a teenager, I sort of grew into books. I think in my later teenage years, I kind of went away from books and reading, because when I got hit by my car at the age of 18, I went on a really rebellious streak, and my late teens, early 20s were a lot about escaping. I think I went away from reading for quite a long time. I think it was about probably a good 10 to 15 years. I sort of had a break from reading. I did read my contemporaries, like authors like Jane Green, things like that, the real contemporaries, and Lisa Jewell when she wrote her cheesy contemporary, like her contemporaries. Now she's a thriller author. But I did occasionally read like contemporaries, but I did, or I read the books we don't talk about, the Harry Potter books. I did read those. They were a real form of escape for me, the Harry Potter ones. And that was before everything all kicked off. But yeah, that was a form that I did read. I think they were the only sort of fantasy-ish kind of books I read, but it was still like the contemporaries and stuff. And I didn't buy very many books. I didn't read very much. But I did have like one bookshelf. Before Booktube, I had one bookshelf. It was my dad's old bookshelf, and that was it. I read contemporaries. I had Harry Potter. I didn't have very many. I've got the bookshelf halfway up the stairs, and that's the bookshelf my dad left me before he died. And that was the one my mum let me have. And it wasn't very full. It was quite an empty bookshelf. And then things changed. I had I think I started reading a bit more when Mia was a baby, because obviously it was like sort of, you read to her. I was determined that my kids were gonna read. I was determined to follow that tradition on. They were gonna read, they were gonna get into it and everything like that. And then what really changed it was when I was pregnant with Thomas. I had my second DVT, deep vein thrombosis, blood clot, whatever. And little did we know that would impact my life and change my life completely. Because when that happened, I started getting chronic pain when I was pregnant with my son. I think it mainly hit in when he was a baby, and I started getting a lot of pain in my knee. We all know that from then onwards, I was, I'm technically now classed as disabled. Like, I've got chronic pain. I live with chronic pain. I live in pain. And when things were getting bad and I was not able to physically do as much, my sisters got me into reading. So this was Charlie and Vicky, Vicky, my youngest sister, who does not go on Booktube. Both the girls got me into reading again. Vicky started lending me books. She started me on Page 2, who you all know is my favourite reader, one of my favourite authors. She started me on the contemporaries, and then it kind of sparked off an interest. It was like, oh, I like reading again, and it sparked off like reminding me of how good reading was. And then I started reading more, and then Charlie started lending me books. It's about 5-6 years ago. Charlie started lending me books. She had, as you well know, Charlie has such a diverse range of books. She reads so many different books and so many different authors. And it was when she started getting into Booktube, she started lending me books. And then that was it. It was like, oh, so maybe not just contemporaries, and maybe there are different authors I could try. And she started getting me interested. And it was like she lent me the Marissa Meyer series, like the Cinder and Scarlet, that series, the Lunar Chronicles, she started me on those, and she started lending me different books, and it was like, oh, that's good. And as they both started me reading, I gradually joined. I started on Goodreads, then I had a blog that stopped because I don't really find the writing bit of it hard. And then I got my own channel, and as you well know, that's progressed a lot. I've changed, my reading tastes have changed a lot. I will go into that obviously on prompt number 4. But yeah, I definitely changed. I realised it was not just contemporaries that I liked. There was new genres that started off, so like things like historical fiction. I went back into classics. I tried a bit of fantasy. I tried everything. I did try a few different things, which, like I said, I will go into in the last prompt. But my evolution of reading has changed a lot. But I think the key thing is, yes, when my chronic pain is at my worst, when I'm at my struggling, contemporaries are still the easiest thing for me to read. They are still the books that are comforting, that I find when my brain is really struggling to focus. I find that with the chronic pain being bad, I struggle to focus. Like today, the day of filming this, I've read my 50 pages for Bleak House, read my pages for another buddy read, but how much I actually took in of those, I don't know, because the pain was so bad. I struggle to focus. So that is still that I will go back to genres that I love and authors that I love when I'm at my worst. But my reading has really changed, and I've loved it. I've loved getting back into books. Like I can't describe to you. Finding books again when I was at my lowest was literally saved my life. So yeah, that's why it's changed. Number 2, how you read. Has the format of your reading changed much? Yeah, I do listen to audiobooks now. I kind of had another break of that, but I've got back into it, and I'm going to certainly look at more audiobooks in the new year. I've got some books that I would like to try, so I'm going to look, hoping my library's going to get some really good authors and really good ones. I need to really, because I don't want to spend money on paying for Audible, which is supposed to be really good, but I do listen to audiobooks. They are great to listen to when I'm doing housework, when I'm walking to work, things like that. I do listen to audiobooks, and I find they're really quite good actually. I'm really actually enjoying listening to them again. I don't probably promote them as much on my channel as I do, but I will try definitely in doing that more. I don't do the ebooks very much because for me, for starters, I have to use my phone, and I've got so many physical books I can't. I've got so many physical books to get through that I feel guilty when I read an ebook on my phone. But I do need to try reading it more. But I think Audible is probably, audiobooks are the ones I read the most. But physically, I still prefer physical books. They're still my go-to. But I do listen to audiobooks a bit more. Number 3, how much do you read? Do you read more, less than previously? And what do you read? How often you read changed? Yeah, you all kind of know that. You all know what I'm like. I read like over 30 books a month. Although I think I'm going to take the pressure off myself a bit and read a bit less going forward. Because now that, like I said, I set myself a really realistic goal, which was to get my unread TBR down to below 400. It's well below that now. And I still need to probably carve down the buying. But as you've well seen, I've been buying a lot less books. And that takes the pressure off how many I've got to read. Like I said, I'm a speed reader. I read quite fast. As to how much I take in, I don't always know that. That's why I need to probably try and slow down a bit on my reading. But I do read a lot. I read a lot more than I've ever read. I think, like I said, I think that number's decreasing now because I'm taking the pressure off myself. But I do read a lot. For me, like I said it previously, books are my saviour. When my chronic pain is bad, I will read more. On the days when I'm laid up, which is literally can happen because of chronic pain, I do read a hell of a lot. I will literally just sit on the sofa. I've got my blanket around me because it's freaking cold, and I will read. So I have to, because I've got chronic pain, I do use like the spoon technique basically, which means I have to do a little bit and then rest, do a little bit, then rest, and keep going on that. The Booktube Waffle group, they laugh because I still read loads, even though I work part-time. I've got a part-time job at Baz Books, my local charity shop. Sebastian Action Trust, everyone supports them. Try and see if I can link the charity down below. So I do that, and I've got my channel, and I've got the two kids, so I have to help them with their homework, house to run. You know, you all know the spiel. Like, I'm lucky I only work part-time, because partly because of chronic pain and partly because of childcare. I only work part-time. I physically can't manage anymore. Actually, realistically, it's because I only work part-time because I physically couldn't manage it. My knee just wouldn't cope. After a shift at work, I'm done. I have to rest. So yeah, I do read a lot. I find that I read a lot. I have a big chunk of reading in the evening. So Thomas now goes to bed a bit later. So I read between getting, like, after dinner and him going to bed, and then I read solidly between him going to bed and me going to bed. I'll read that. Evenings are the easiest time to read because that's the time that I can sort of sit down and don't feel guilty because I've done everything. I have a real problem with guilt, which is if I'm sitting down too long, I feel like, oh my God, I've got so much to do. I've got so much housework to do. I've got the food to cook. I've got this to prep. I've got this to do. Obviously, I'm putting more videos out at the moment with December, even though I wasn't going to. I've got Booktube stuff to do. So I do find myself feeling guilty when I put that time in for myself. But at the same time, reading is my escape. So I read as much as I physically can. I normally read once I've done the school run. I have a little bit of reading time then. Do a bit of housework, do reading, and do it like that. I am now having a bit more time off with my family. So I will have like a Tuesday night where I don't read now, because that's when Chris goes out and it's mine and Mia's time. I have like certain programs we watch together as a family, and I won't read when that's on. Thing is, me and Chris, I think I read probably more than most people because me and Chris do not like the same sort of programs on TV. We have had battles over the years because we are starting to like more, but he likes different TV programs to me. So when he's watching TV, I will read. The only time I get the TV to myself is when they're at school and I can watch like The Crown at lunchtime. And that's when I watch food when I'm eating, because I can't read and eat. That just feels so wrong. But yeah, I think that's sort of the big thing with me, is when they've all got the TV on, I will read. Sometimes I will read and be like, I'll show you, like, reading and then watch what they were reading. And so sometimes I'm like that, and then it really does take a bit of a dip when I'm doing that. But Chris kind of likes that because it means he gets to watch what he wants, but I get to engage with him as well. That's quite. I think that's very rambly. Sorry about this, guys. And lastly, before I do tag people, is how has Booktube changed you as a reader? Yeah, it's changed me a lot. Like I said, I only ever read contemporary and like the children's classics, like the Enid Blyton growing up. Still got those books. But when I joined Booktube, oh my God, I was like overwhelmed watching all these different channels and all these different genres. And I was like, I want to try everything. And I was like, I've got to try this and this and this. And I tried thrillers. I still read one thriller a month, although that's going to change in the new year. I'm going to take the pressure off because I find thrillers are quite hard because they can be quite, sometimes I'm a bit, yeah, those of you that know me will know that I'm the biggest wimp going. I am the biggest wimp. Before books, I was always hiding behind the TV when scary things come on the TV. Mia watches more scary stuff than I do, and she's 10. I am the giant wimp. So thrillers, I sort of did try. Horrors, I did try. I don't like them as much. They're not really my go-to. So I did try a lot of things. I have found that I like a lot more non-fiction now. I love classics. Oh, I forgot to say, yeah. When I was at school, we read a lot of classics, and I found Wuthering Heights. I am named after Emily Bronte, and oh my God, going back to classics and going back to Wuthering Heights, going back to starting on Jane Eyre again, finding new classic authors that I love. Wilkie Collins is a new author that I love. Lady Audience Secret. I've got loads of classic videos out. I have rediscovered a love for classics. I am fussy. Some classics I read and I will enjoy. Some classic authors, like I like Hardy. Yes, Jem, you'll be proud of me for that. Love Hardy. I have got some real favourite classic authors now. I love my young people's classics. I went and got back into Little Women, and I do enjoy my classics again now. I love my non-fiction. I've got into fantasy. I really am quite enjoying fantasy. That's quite a new sort of newish genre to me that I'm really enjoying. I want to get back into. I do want to read a bit more fantasy. I need to get off my bum and find some more that I really enjoy, because I think I'm more into I'm not into adult fantasy. I tried adult fantasy. It's not for me. YA fantasy and middle grade fantasy are where I'm at. They're where I'm comfortable. So do you know what? That's okay. I tried a lot of things and I learned that it's okay to not like certain things. Like adult fantasy is not for me. Thrillers and horror are not really my go-to. I only enjoy, like I said, I like non-fiction now. The biggest thing that's happened to me is that I've grown a real love for historical fiction. You all know that. I read historical fiction and my contemporaries are my sort of top genres that I read every month. Historical fiction has been a passion that I've got into big time. I love it. I love my Tudor fiction because obviously I grew up, and that was another thing, growing up I knew loads about the Tudor era, and that was an era that I really am interested in. I love Victorian times. I love wartime books. I think that's because of my nan. My nan told me loads of stories about the wartime, and we grew up talking about that a lot, and I don't know why, that sort of felt quite relevant. So I love wartime fiction, historical fiction. I love Victorian historical fiction and Tudor. They're my three sort of eras that I love the most. But Booktube has widened that. This is what we're saying. Booktube has widened that. It's made me read loads of different eras in time that I'm really enjoying, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I read books set in other countries now. I read books that were written in other countries. I'm enjoying that. I read different contemporary authors. I even read some translated fiction, which I never thought I'd love. Booktube has changed my life. It's changed my reading. It's made me grow, and it's made me push myself. Yeah, I'm going to be pushing myself a little bit less going forward. And I'm realising that that's okay. But I still do want to try things. I do want to try different authors. I do want to do pushing my reading genres, but I'm going to be gentle on myself because that's something that's really important. And Booktube has changed me in every which way. It's also changed me as a person because I've met some amazing friends. You all know who you are. And I'm happy. And I thank Booktube for changing my reading and changing my life, and in every which way saving my life. Because without Booktube, God knows where I'd be now. So thank you. I hope this video was not too much of a rambling video. I am going to tag Alex from Alex Black Reads, Kat from Brews and Reviews. I don't tag Kat very often, but I'd love to hear how she's changed as reader. And then Tori from Good Strong Words. And those of you that I've not tagged, if you want to do it, please feel free to do it and link me. Thank you, Jack, for creating this tag. It's a great chatty video. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, not subscribed yet, ring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye-bye.